Welcome back to my channel with new video, the ward that wasn't on any floor plan. Genre vibe, gothic hospital horror. Medical mystery. Summary, journalist Adrienne Cole receives a tip about a long-closed section of St. Thomas Hospital, the Faith Healing Ward. It's not listed in any current blueprints and was supposedly sealed after 67 patients admitted between 1984 and 1992 never walked out. Adrienne discovers that the hospital's founders were involved in spiritualist movements and unlicensed experimental practices. She sneaks into the abandoned wing and finds locked files, handwritten prayer logs, and a room still set up for midnight prayer sessions. The air is cold. She hears whispers. Cliffhanger. A locked door marked Patient Room 22 opens slowly by itself. The Journal of Father Marius Grieg. Genre vibe, religious horror. Occult priesthood. Summary. Adrienne finds a hidden journal in the chapel altar. It belonged to Father Marius Grieg, the ward's spiritual overseer. The entries reveal bizarre rituals involving faith infusions, speaking in tongues, and an entity he called the admittant. He believed healing came from opening oneself to divine presence, but his final entries suggest something else answered. A nurse's suicide note from 1987 is found in the same drawer. They're not healing, they're hosting. Cliffhanger. Adrienne's recording device captures a voice whispering her name, though she's alone. The 333 Blessing, genre vibe, medical paranormal, supernatural time loop. Summary. Adrienne investigates hospital staff who worked the faith ward. A retired orderly tells her about the 333 Blessing, a nightly event when lights dimmed and patients were forced to chant while Father Grieg administered a holy serum. Adrienne returns to the ward at 3:33 a.m. to test the story. Time seems to slow. Monitors flicker back to life. A patient record appears on screen. Subject number 44, still watching. Cliffhanger. She finds a VHS tape titled Ward Ritual, March 13, 1987, that appears freshly placed. Patient 44, genre vibe, found footage plus psychological dread. Summary. The VHS shows patient number 44, real name, Evelyn Mears, writhing in bed while Father Grieg chants. Her vitals go flat, then spike violently. She suddenly smiles and begins speaking in a language no one recognizes. Adrienne tracks down Evelyn's granddaughter, who believes Evelyn never died. She still dreams of her, alive, inside the walls. The woman is covered in strange bruises. Adrienne sees symbols appear under her skin during the interview. Cliffhanger. The granddaughter convulses and mutters, "The admittant is beneath the chapel. Blood beneath the chapel." Genre vibe, dark ritual horror, unearthed evil. Summary. Adrienne breaks into the chapel's sub-basement. Underneath, she finds sealed catacombs, originally a 19th century plague morgue. A hidden chamber holds dozens of roped mannequins arranged in a circle. The floor is stained red. In the center, an old breathing machine hooked to a living patient, except it's been decades. The patient blinks at Adrienne. She screams. The door locks behind her. Cliffhanger, carved above the door. The body sleeps, the spirit roams. The Surgeon's Gospel, genre vibe, anatomical horror. Forbidden knowledge, summary. The breathing patient was Dr. Elwin Reiser, the hospital's head surgeon from 1948 to 1989. His notebook describes experiments on what he called neuro-divine transference, attempting to transplant spiritual afflictions between bodies. Adrienne realizes the healing was never for the patients. It was for the admittant, feeding on faith and flesh. Dr. Reiser's body begins to move, connected to machines that shouldn't work. Cliffhanger. Adrienne flees as a new patient file prints from a dead terminal. The name, Cole, Adrienne, subject 68. The lost patient's file, genre vibe, haunting investigation, bureaucratic horror. Summary. Adrienne confronts a hospital administrator who denies the faith ward ever existed. But a whistleblower janitor hands her a file box marked Faith Wing, Final Transfers. Inside are patient photos with eyes scratched out, all dated within the same week. A post-it note reads, "They weren't discharged, they were consumed." The deeper she digs, the more the hospital staff forgets her. Security footage stops recording her image. Cliffhanger. Her own photo appears among the lost patients. Date stamped, tomorrow's date. Echoes of the admittant, genre vibe, eldritch horror. Ritual possession. Summary. Adrienne discovers the entity known as the admittant is not a demon, but a collapsed consciousness formed by collective suffering. It can only inhabit the faithful. She realizes the rituals allowed it to replace the spirits of those too devout to resist. She finds video files of patients praying for healing, only to fall silent mid-sentence and stare into the camera. One whispers, "You brought it with you." Cliffhanger. Adrienne bleeds from her eyes and wakes up in a hospital bed. Her voice isn't hers. The 68th host, genre vibe, possession plus mind horror, summary. Now Partias. Fully possessed, Adrienne records her memories before she fades. She fights the presence inside her, documenting the truth about the 67 patients, whose minds were consumed and stored in the admittant. She realizes the ward isn't just haunted, it feeds. The spirit spreads digitally now. A journalist who read her blog begins hallucinating. Cliffhanger. Adrienne uploads the final footage. A shadow figure walks behind her screen. It turns to face the camera. The Faithless Cure. Genre vibe. Catharsis with dread. Modern horror. Summary. Adrienne returns to the sealed faith ward one last time, wearing a full camera rig. She finds 67 beds, each one now filled with faceless mannequins. She burns the room and herself to break the loop. In the final scene, a YouTuber reviewing the mystery of the faith ward finds Adrienne's footage and begins hearing a whisper, "Admit me." Final line. Welcome, Subject 69. Ward 6. Never closed. Theme. Discovery of a second undocumented ward. Adrienne, if still partially possessed, or a new investigator finds evidence of a secret twin facility used after the first faith ward was shut down. Ward 6 was rebranded under a hospice front, but still followed the admittance rituals. Surveillance footage shows a priest entering each room before patients flatlined, always at 3:33 a.m. The voices in the oxygen masks. Theme, medical horror. Former respiratory nurse reveals she quit after every patient on oxygen began whispering the same phrase. "Admit me again." Patients on life support begin speaking in foreign tongues, even with paralyzed vocal cords. Audio spectrograms show visual anomalies, faces hidden in the sound waves. Redacted angels. Theme, government cover-up, Black Ops occult. A FOIA request unearths blacked-out reports from 1988 to 1990. A top-secret health division was monitoring St. Thomas Hospital due to extra-empirical phenomena. One document references Type 7 entities, devotional feeders. A whistleblower shows a photo of a burned page depicting admittant class spiritual contagion. Dr. Elwyn's children. Theme, bio-horror, failed spiritual experiments. The surgeon from earlier left behind biological vessels, artificial bodies meant to house faith-based entities. But the host bodies deteriorated rapidly, their minds flooding with trapped voices. Adrienne discovers underground tanks still humming, with something moving inside. The false priest. Theme, demonic infiltration. Imposter identity, a visiting priest from 1985, Father Hal Drennan, was never officially ordained. Interviews and camera footage reveal his shadow moves independently. Survivors claim he smelled like embalming fluid and refused to walk on hospital crosses. Adrienne finds his quarters, but no bed, just chains and prayer scars. The forgiveness machine. Theme, pauses. Scion through technology, a prototype was installed in the faith ward, a confession box wired to EKG sensors. Patients had to confess their darkest sins nightly while wired to the machine. One night, all patients died simultaneously during confessions. The only thing they said, "He forgave me with his mouth open." The Paper Pulse. Theme: haunted documents. Every medical chart for the 67 patients shows a fourth vital sign not recognized by science. Spiritual pressure. A folder labeled "Do Not Copy" continues to replicate itself after being scanned. Each copy slightly different, with new dates and new patient names. Subject 0. Theme: origin story. A nun named Sister Oliva, once a faith healer in 1919, was the first to summon the admittant during a mass prayer. Her body was never buried, just sealed in a vault under the hospital. Her rosary is found beneath Adrienne's bed. When touched, people lose their sense of time. The Drowning Hymn. Theme: sonic haunting. A specific hymn, "Let Thy Spirit Enter," was used during healing sessions. New patients claim to hear it during MRIs or while under anesthesia. A musicologist discovers the notes match the brain waves of REM paralysis. The hymn doesn't just calm, it binds. The Admittance Eyes. Theme: surveillance and spiritual invasion. All cameras in the hospital are found to capture brief moments of an extra figure, always present in patient deaths. When filtered with IR, the entity is fully visible. A security officer investigating this gouged out his eyes and wrote, "Now I'm not a window anymore." The Reverse Prayer. Theme: ritual corruption. Father Grieg had created a prayer meant to purge illness. A linguist finds it written backward in his final notebook. When played in reverse, the recording matches a demonic incantation found in pre-Christian Latin. It was never healing anyone. It was letting something in. The 68th record. Theme: Adrienne's fate. A mysterious hard drive reveals a fully recorded clinical session with Adrienne, logged after her supposed death. In the video, she speaks in multiple voices and recites names of all 67 dead patients. Her face glitches. Her eyes are black. Final quote: "This ward is a doorway. I'm already through." The Devotion Index. Theme: quantifying belief. Documents show the hospital developed a machine to measure religious conviction. Only those with the highest scores were admitted to the faith ward. The more faithful the patient, the more violently they were consumed. The admittant feeds best on true believers. The Missing Organ Room. Theme: anatomical terror. In the sealed surgical archives, a room is found filled with perfectly preserved human organs: hearts, lungs, brains, each labeled by sin confessed. These were removed not to cure, but to cleanse the spiritual vessel for invasion. The Silence Baptism. Theme: loss of identity. Witnesses speak of the Silence Baptism, a ritual where patients had to remain absolutely silent for 7 days. Those who failed would hear chanting in their sleep and begin writing in languages they didn't know. Afterward, none of them remembered their names. The Faith Reversal Protocol. Theme: government intervention. Black ops teams were sent to erase the admittant's physical influence. They tried surgical erasure of religious memory using EMR waves. Most of the agents involved are now catatonic. When spoken to, they repeat, "Faith was the shield, now it's the blade." Her prayer wasn't hers. Theme: for identity theft. A surviving nurse, now institutionalized, claims her prayers were written for her by a patient who never spoke. She woke up reciting things she never believed. Her thoughts are no longer hers. She's covered in hand-drawn religious glyphs with no memory of writing them. The Devoured Light. Theme: spiritual eclipse. A solar eclipse in 1991 coincided with 22 deaths in the faith ward. Every bulb in the wing exploded at once. A survivor recalls seeing a shadow pass over every bed, and then a sun inside the chapel screaming like a mouth. Footage lost. Photos melted. The Room That Prays Back. Theme: Final haunting. The ward itself is now sentient, walls whispering, lights blinking in Morse. Anyone who enters begins praying without prompting. The room records voices on its own, even when empty. A final test reveals a horrifying truth. The room is waiting for its final patient. Admittance granted. Theme: the cycle completes. The final survivor attempts to destroy the remaining files but is haunted by everyone who watched Adrienne's video. The story has become digital. It wants to spread. Last line. This was never a hospital. It was a door disguised as mercy.